Hello, so my name's Michael Keneally and this video is called November 2020 Astrology Crucial Overview. There's also an accompanying video about the detailed timetable of these super huge, super important planetary energies that we'll all be experiencing and have to work out how to deal with. And in fact, it's part of our November Star Wheel Astrology and Healing newsletter, which has quite a number of add-on videos and blogs, and they are listed on the November page of my Star Wheel Astrology website and in the bottom of the blog posts. Okay, first bit of news is very positive. I want to say that we are so pleased and honoured to announce the launch of Dr. Elizabeth Hendrick's new online Kabbalah course. And so Dr. Liz writes, "The world is in a state of crisis. Fear and anger rise as a result. Learning more about yourself and your personal mission can bring relief to anxiety and dread. Live well and connect to spirit in these crazy times." So, her Kabbalah course is on my Star Wheel Astrology website, and the links to the page are in the blog post accompanying this video. And also see the links to the page for Elizabeth Hendrick's wonderful psychic readings and healings that help so much. Okay, to turn to the November 2020 astrology, it is so big that it has to have an accompanying timetable and has to have a number of helpful add-on parts. So do try and see those. They're listed on the November webpage in the Star Wheel Astrology website and at the bottom of the blog posts accompanying these videos. The truth is that we are in for a dark period from now to April 2023 and beyond. And the factors combining to bring this about will become clear this month. The key fact to be aware of is that this rising of the darkness can be used, must be used, to embrace more and more of the light. That is its spiritual purpose, and that so many people are doing, embracing the light because of the surrounding rising darkness. And so just to give you what I hope will be a helpful example, and you can try and replicate it where you live if you don't have something like this. Where we live in the west of Ireland, on the northwest coast of Ireland, there's a wonderful healers community, and I want to pay tribute especially to the work of Claire Louise Nifton, who organises monthly healers fairs and weekly transcendence dance sessions that are so healing. And online she does ancestral healing sessions. So it's so good if everyone develops something like that in their area. And the more so because I predict a world where fear and darkness will be on the rise for at least 3 years. There will be social division and fighting. There will definitely be economic recession. I'll be giving you the details later on, and especially in the timetable. So do plan for this now. So if this is any help, I'll tell you how we have been planning for all this disruption with coronavirus and, yes, definitely economic downturn and recession. I'm certain it's going to come in Ireland, but also, I know of factors in the UK and the United States. So what I'm doing is I'm rationalising my online work. And we're diversifying our income by building 2 Airbnb extensions, and I'm planning extensions of my Sacred West of Ireland tours work, because the tours will, I feel, be able to be reopened in March 2021, and bringing into those tours wonderful possible additional dimensions of vision work for healing and empowerment on these very high energy ancient sacred sites that are all around us. For example, to meet the gods and goddesses of the ancient Irish and Norse as faces of the ultimate divine for healing and empowerment. And my wife, Maggie Pashley, is developing her many online healing modalities yet further. Particularly, she has been inspired to go into ever deeper hypnosis techniques and is also developing her face-to-face healings in Sligo Wellness Healing Centre nearby. And she's developing earth energies work to wonderfully tie in with our sacred West of Ireland tours using the Lecker antenna, energy measurement and healing device pioneered locally by Dame Anne-Marie Delmotte. So I just give you an example of how we have strategized and are preparing, in the hope that you might say, well, do I agree with Michael that recession is oncoming, that social division is oncoming, that darkness is rising? And you might say to yourself, well, I too must strategize my life accordingly. Okay, let's turn to the planetary details a bit in an introductory way. There's a far more detailed timetable, which is a separate video and blog. The really important thing that mustn't be overlooked is that Venus starts November at 11 degrees Vedic Virgo. Now, Virgo is the sign of Venus's debilitation. If you have Venus in Virgo, you can't express love so easily. Venus enters Libra on the 17th of November, and that's the sign he rules, having Mula Trikona good strength and very good dignity. But please do be aware of Venus's debilitation the first 17 days of November. Make a special attempt to keep love alive. Make a special attempt to keep beauty and harmony in your life at this time. And it's a time which could marginalise love and beauty. Because if you just listen to the next item, Mars. In November, Mars's debilitation ensures there'll be quite a measure of violence and frustration, both in our own personal consciousness and also at the level of the societies we live in. This Mars transit will bring so much irritation, and it's the same time as the dark and the shadow are rising because of the transit of Pluto at this time and on into 2023. Because of this fraught Mars transit in Vedic Pisces, where Mars is debilitated, with Mars going through the Gandanta zones between Pisces, Vedic Pisces and Vedic Aries, and then Mars, such a warrior strength when in Aries. All the dates for this are in the timetable, the separate video blog. It will be so easy for many to get sucked into the super strong, angry, negative, frustrated modes of thinking, feeling and treating others. But like all these dark energies which are combining and intertwining now, they are actually a call to embrace the light, and many are doing this now. This multifaceted, super difficult Mars transit lasts from the 20th of June 2020 to February 2021, and I've actually done 2 separate videos just about that. one presenting the energies of the transit and the other giving a detailed timetable. So look for those videos and their accompanying blogs. Okay, the next problem is that so many planets are weak or disturbed in November, especially Mercury, Venus and Jupiter. But Saturn at this time, and ongoing for so long, is super strong. So Saturn, in his spiritual dimension, Lord Shani, Lord of Karma, will demand that loose ends and things undone that you need to do are tied up and done now. And you'll feel a lot of frustration if you don't do those things, and if you don't smash the blocks which are stopping you from your needed, authentic journey path forward. So Saturn too will be very difficult, but there's a spiritual purpose and a healing there, both at the personal level and the social level. But remember that that humans don't necessarily receive the gift of Saturn in the spiritual way, admittedly the sometimes horrifically hard spiritual way. And do remember that Saturn negatively, which will prevail increasingly from this month, is rigid conventional thinking, blocks and cruelty, oppression of the more beautiful and spiritual facets of our life, fundamentalist, legalistic, even cruel religious formats. Okay, let's go on to Neptune. Neptune is square the nodal axis at this time, and so there's a fated dimension to Neptune at this time, believe me. And he is delivering to us an evolutionary imperative now. And it means that we will all have to deal with phantasms of untruth, deception, confabulation and illusion. Now, it's obvious they'll be arising massively in the political life area now, particularly in the United States. But I can see it in Ireland, where there's so much disagreement pending about who's going to pay the bill for the huge, unplanned for coronavirus expenditure. And of course, on the personal level, you and I will have to work out what is real, push aside Neptune illusion and delusion, embrace Neptune's vision potential, his intuition, his sensitivity. I pretty well set on a path of rationalising and reorganising my life because of a shamanic journey that totally unexpectedly happened a few weeks ago. And thank goodness it did. And it's allowing me to embrace a super imperative in my future, which is continuing to write my 5th novel, The Morrigan and the Dagda. And I started actually doing that in the evenings. And I feel so calmed and inspired and fulfilling a creative dimension of myself because of that. I'm telling you this in case that's sort of helpful for you to look for inspiration about what is your guiding vision and pathway now. Okay, on to the next one. Well, in the heavens there is a super rare, vastly powerful Saturn-Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, and it morphs and evolves through to the end of this year and into 2021. But basically, its vast energy is to bring conflict between repression and freedom, plutocracy or spiritual breakthrough and raising of consciousness, These are different possible combinations of Jupiter-Pluto, Saturn-Pluto, Saturn-Jupiter. Here's another one we may have to face: structure and originality. Your blocks or your breakthrough. So there's masses about the Saturn-Jupiter-Pluto conjunction and its evolution in the accompanying timetable videos and blogs. So now we get on to Uranus. Uranus now has super slow velocity in the heavens, around 12 degrees Vedic Aries. And he very, very slowly, imperceptibly, continues retrograding until he turns direct in January. But then he hardly changes degree as he slowly starts moving direct and forward in January. So Uranus will be demanding that each of us take the banner of revolution and storm our personal Bastille now. This will particularly affect people with planets in Vedic Aries or Vedic Libra opposite. And as I've sort of been mentioning, I've had to bring in revolution, and I'm so glad that I actually did it. Although I haven't yet completely rationalised my work, I nevertheless said I will always make time to write my novel. This is the sort of thing we have to do. It is not a gentle energy. I predicted before Uranus entered Vedic Aries that it's exactly the same energy. The last time Uranus entered Vedic Aries, where he was now, Hitler burned down the Reichstag and brought in World War II. That's the energy we're dealing with, and I feel the United States are particularly saddled with that, more negative side of it. Okay, we come to Pluto. Pluto in particular absolutely insists that each of us face our shadow. It's no good going for spiritual bypass. It's no good putting up blinkers and blocks. We need to face our shadow material and deal with it and heal it, so that we can be lightened, so that we can be more open to the divine energy coming in through our crown chakra, so that we can arise and embrace our proper power, the properly empowered me, the properly empowered you. But certainly the rise of Pluto between now and 2023 will massively play out in politics, particularly in the United States, where there is so much shadow material, indeed stemming from the plutocratic leaders who rightly rose up against the British imperialists when the United States declared independence, but also stemming from, and this is most important, the almost genocidal treatment of the indigenous peoples. Okay, and more about that in the accompanying timetable. Really important point. Let's move on to Jupiter. Well, it's bad news. Jupiter enters Vedic Capricorn on the 21st, I think it's the 20th of November. And then, of course, he will be debilitated. In fact, in the timetable, I show you a couple of graphs to show how ghastly Jupiter's debilitation is. So this is the end of Jupiter influence almost, although Jupiter will boost Saturn a bit because Saturn is in Vedic Capricorn. But be very clear, the rule of Saturn now arises and is confirmed. Now, the whole point is that when Jupiter last entered Vedic Capricorn, it was in 2008, and that brought in recession. So here in Ireland, there was the Celtic Tiger, and people borrowed loads and loads and loads of money and started building loads and loads and loads of sort of McMansion houses. And so many empty houses stand in the area where we live, half built, even whole estates of them, because the bubble burst. This is going to happen now. There can be a lot of waffle about, oh, well, Jupiter helps Saturn a bit. Well, it does. But that's not going to alter the fact that Jupiter is supremely debilitated, as the graphs I will include in the timetable blog show. And anyway, on the 21st of November next year, 2021, Jupiter moves on into Vedic Aquarius. Saturn will be alone in Vedic Capricorn, and that is really searing. There's a couple of vast twists to this tale. Jupiter joins Saturn exact in the heavens on the 12th of November. So how do you balance Jupiter expansion and Saturn contraction and limits? It's a task we each have to face, because otherwise our lives won't sort out. But our societies have to do it too. And the risk is, I think particularly in the United States, there's a sort of fundamentalist, rigid Saturn will rule, rather than a structure that can contain Jupiterian blessing and expansion in a realistic way. Also, I'm just trying to think. Well, actually, I'm doing a separate video and blog to the effect that I have researched deeply, and I would say that the destinies of Donald Trump and the United States are inextricably intertwined at this moment. And he incarnated to